Hey guys, Chad Hoover, Kayak Bassing TV, and today we're going to talk about know what to throw. Here's the thing, I probably get the question more about knowing what to throw and when to throw it than any other question by a factor of, 100. I think it's probably one of the things that's either the most overanalyzed or the least analyzed out there. I think some anglers completely overthink it, and then I think some anglers don't put enough thought into it whatsoever. So let me give you my philosophy on knowing what to throw. That's not just what to throw all day, but when to throw what you plan on throwing. So the real big deal is when you're going to throw power fishing presentations over slower moving presentations. Power fishing presentations being spinner baits, crankbaits, buzz baits, pretty much any top water. And I say pretty much because I'll get to that in a second. But realistically, fast moving baits that cause either an aggressive territorial defense, hunger strike, or a reaction strike tend to dominate the sexy side of fishing. The things that anglers think they should be throwing. The thing that an angler says, if I can't catch them on this, why can't I catch them on this? I see the guys on TV doing it, but I have no success in doing so. In fact, I got this comment the other day where the gentleman said, I have no confidence in spinner baits. Why can't I catch them on a spinner bait? And so I think by and large what happens is anglers fish when they could instead of when they should, and by doing so they've already got it in their mind what they want to throw instead of thinking about the conditions, the setting, the variables, the weather, the moon phase. Before I go any further, I'm going to talk about the moon phase, because as soon as I say that, a lot of people roll their eyes, exhale forcefully, and I'll tell you that the secret to my success is that I manage and watch my solunar data, my feeding times, and then its interaction, or the weather's interaction with it, and the other variables interaction with it, like probably nothing else that I do to make me successful. It's part of my pre-trip planning. It's part of my approach. It determines what I tie on in the beginning of a trip, when I transition to different things, and how I approach my fishing for the day. So, moon phase. I'm gonna have a completely separate video talking about that, so I'm not gonna delve into it too much. What I'm gonna tell you is, if you don't believe in it, become a believer. If you don't become a believer, you will catch less fish. It really does boil down to, it's that important. And when I explain to you why, and again, I'll get into a more in-depth analysis of the solunar, what makes solunar data, how it's derived, and what effect it has on schooling fish, bait fish, herding animals, and that in a separate video. So let's say for the sake of argument in this video, you just accept that moon phase is a big deal. Here's how you determine what to throw and when to throw, and how you ensure that you're going to be more successful more often. And it's a real simple concept. Find out what your feeding window is, okay? Pick the spot that you think you're going to catch the biggest fish or the best fish of your trip. Plan your trip to where you end up in that spot with that presentation tied on, and you fish your best spot with your best lure and your best possible chance of catching a fish. And here's what I mean by that. So let's say I'm paddling 1.5 miles and I've got 4 spots on my route that I planned that I want to check. Now, if you don't plan a route and if you don't have things in advance that you want to check out, then you need to add that to your arsenal. And again, that's going to be a separate conversation. But let's just say I got 4 spots I'm going to check, and one spot is kind of my prime spot. And let's say the feeding time is from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock that day, and I'm launching at noon. Set an alarm at 1:30, and don't put yourself in position to be at that spot until you're approaching the feeding time. Pay attention to things like wading birds, surface activity, fish blowing up, and all those things that let you know that power fishing presentations are going to be active. If you're throwing a topwater or a buzz bait or something like that, you'll every now and then get a reaction strike, or you'll get that killer instinct thing where the fish just absolutely demolishes a bait when you've got a bird sitting in a tree instead of waiting, when you've got no surface activity and the water's dead, for lack of a better way of putting it. But by and large, to catch fish consistently on those presentations, to catch fish consistently on power fishing presentations, you need to fish them more in the primary feeding time window, and you need to fish them in places where those fish are more likely to be during those times. And when you can align those 2 or 3 variables, you're going to catch a lot more fish. You're going to catch a lot more fish more often. You're going to catch them more predictably, and you're going to catch bigger fish. And the reason that you're going to catch bigger fish by doing that is you're going to be more likely to be in the right place at the right time when those fish have moved into that area, or when they're agreeable with, you know, hitting your presentation. So let's think about it like this. Fish your power fishing presentations, your spinner baits, buzz baits, crank baits, swim baits, swim jigs, and things like that in your peak feeding times. Start a little bit before and fish it until a little bit after. Pay attention to the things that are going on around you, whether your wading birds are wading, whether your bait fish are flickering on the top. If you see nervous water, that lets you know to throw a power fishing presentation. When it's off peak, if you know it's off peak, throw a slower moving presentation. Whether that's a Carolina rigged plastic that you're going to barely move and let sit, whether that is a Texas rigged plastic that you're going to barely move and let sit, whether that's a trick worm or a Senko that you're going to throw out and let fall real slow so it stays in the strike zone longer, and it makes that bass think more about taking a shot at it. And because they're not as aggressive and they're not chasing things down, they're more likely to hit that bait. More often than not, the more active a fish is, the more likely they are to be near the surface if the fish have moved shallow. And the more likely they are to be near the bottom when they're less active and pulled tight to cover and in a resting mode, if you will. Water is cover. We don't think about it like that, but water is cover and water is security. It's security from predators, it's security from the weather, it's security from pressure changes. And so fish tend to move off into a little bit deeper water to chill, to relax. But if you put a slow moving plastic in their face, if you put a jig in their face, if you put something that sits there longer. I do a seminar series called SWOT, which stands for seasonal progression, weather, astrological data, and then temperature and trending. And that's the tactical approach to fishing. What I'm talking about right now is kind of part of that series. And one of the things that people don't think about is the fact that you have to not personify fish. They're not like us, they do things differently, but it's easy for me to use analogies for you to understand how a fish does a certain thing that is related to us. So when I say don't personify fish and then I'm going to turn around and do it, I just kind of wanted to explain that. So imagine that you're really hungry. You'll jump in the car, you'll drive somewhere to go eat, you'll wait in line, you'll tell your waiter what you want, or you'll go in the kitchen, you'll drag a bunch of stuff out, you'll chop up vegetables, you'll cut your meat, you'll put it on the grill, you'll raise the lid, you'll go in, you'll go out, you'll stand there, you'll tend that food, you'll work to get that food. But once you've eaten that food and you're full and you're suffering in a lot of cases because we all tend to overeat, and you're sitting on the couch and you're like, oh my gosh, you couldn't eat another bite. The smell of what before made your mouth water now make your stomach turn, right? Because you just overindulged. And fish in a lot of cases do that. I don't know if you've ever caught a bass that's got, shad tail sticking out of its mouth, or you catch them and they're regurgitating bait fish or regurgitating crawfish. They gorge themselves. And so a lot of times if you show up right after a primary feeding time, or you see bass crushing bait and then everything slows down, they've moved back into those tight cover locations and they're basically ready to just sit and digest their food and chill. That's their couch, okay? But here's the thing. For those of you guys that are married, or you have a roommate, or you have a friend that may make you something to eat, okay? Let's just use that as an analogy, and let's call it a given. Maybe it's your mom if you still live at home. I don't care how much you've eaten, how full you are, or how you've, how turned off you are to the concept of feeding. If somebody comes and sets a bowl of potato chips on the nightstand next to you, or they set them in your lap, or they set a bowl of popcorn there, and it just sits there, eventually your hand will find its way to the bowl, and you'll end up eating some of that popcorn. Eventually your hand will find its way into the bowl, and you'll end up with some of those potato chips in your mouth. So I tell people this all the time. I call it the pizza and popcorn potato chip effect. When you're hungry, you'll go in there and you'll be spinning the dough and you'll roll it out and you'll chop up the toppings and you'll put the toppings on there and you'll put it in the oven and you'll check it and you'll check it and you'll go back to the couch and you'll come back and you'll make sure it's okay. Then you'll cut it up and you serve it and then you sit there and eat it. And that's power fishing, okay? That's when the fish are aggressive. But when they're not, you need to slow it down. You need to put the lure in their face. And that's when a jig, a soft plastic, a lizard, a Carolina rig moved very slowly. You can power fish a Carolina rig. So I'm talking about a Carolina rig that's tack, weight, drag. A very, very, very versatile bait to fish those transition times on both sides of that feeding time is a swim jig, or a jig that you swim, because you can fish it slow, you can pitch it and let it swing on the drop, you can swim it and fish it like a spinner bait, you can throw it out and let it fall and hit the bottom, and a lot of times you just kind of intuitively figure out when you're getting bit, and you have a tendency to do that more. So if you take the approach that I'm talking about now, you knowing what to throw and when to throw what, you're gonna catch more fish. I hope you guys like these type of videos, because it's much easier to do this than it is to try to accomplish this when out on the water and actively engaged in fishing. But I want you to add this type of thought process to your arsenal, because I truly want you to have more success. I want you to catch more fish. So I'm going to narrow this down real simple. Learn to use astrological data, solunar data, moon phase, whatever you want to call it, to your advantage. Delve into it. Research it, understand it, embrace it. It is an effective way to increase your success when catching fish. What happens is most of us dismiss it if we go out and we don't get an immediate response. So if you take this and do it for a month and create a logbook or journal your fishing, and during your peak feeding times, throw a power fishing presentation. During your off-peak feeding times, throw a soft plastic, a jig, a worm, or something that's going to stay in the strike zone longer, you're going to catch more fish. Jerk baits are a great bait to fish on the tapering into the feeding time, the tapering out, because it's jerk, pause, and it stays in the strike zone, so you get those transitional fish. And it's not just a cold water bait like a lot of people think. So we'll talk more about transition baits. We'll talk more about fishing the transition in another video in a couple days or a couple weeks. I'm really, getting on the water some, getting off the water some, getting on the water some, getting off the water some. And I hope you guys like this format. We got a great response to the 3 things video. We got a great response to the why I use braid video. And I hope that you guys like these type of videos. So do me a favor, focus on learning a little bit more about solunar effect, about moon phase and how to fish them. Use your power fishing presentations in your peak times. Use your off peak. Use your hard to fish presentations for power fishermen. In your off peak times, you'll build more confidence in those baits when they're the most effective. Take that information, use that to build your confidence in both types of presentations. You'll become a more well-rounded angler, and then by understanding this concept, you'll catch more fish more often. I feel like that in and of itself is a confidence booster, and then makes you want to focus more on becoming a better angler. Learn the variables, and you get into that percentage of fishermen where 90% of the fish are caught by 10% of the fishermen. So get in the 10, and I feel like you will be a lot more fulfilled as an angler. You'll have a lot more confidence, and you'll talk yourself into going fishing more, because you don't go fishing, you go catching. And you don't catch a fish and you're surprised by it. You catch a fish because you expected to catch it. Get out there, fish with a purpose, practice with a purpose, and hopefully this video helps. I hope you like these kind of videos. Give the video a big thumbs up if you like it. Spend some time reading, learning, educating yourself, putting more knowledge in the noggin. You'll catch more fish. Comment below, tell me what you like, what you don't like about this type of video. I am going to try to keep putting these out. We got some great fishing videos coming soon. A lot of action. The summer's been hot. We're heading out to do some more videos. If we can get this video to 500 likes, Christy and I are going to do a subscriber fishing trip giveaway. So I know that's kind of lofty because we haven't gotten to 500 likes on a single video yet. That's crazy, seeing as how we got 35,000 plus subscribers. So you guys do me a favor, actively smash that thumbs up button. Comment below. We're going to start calling out a subscriber, and answering your questions in the video. So hopefully that's a little bit more incentive to comment below. Comment on the comments, because your interaction helps me understand what it is that you want me to create when it comes to content. It also makes the community more valuable to everybody that's here and visiting the channel. Don't forget to turn on the notifications at the top. Hit that little bell so you get a notification when I release a new video. The more love we get here, the more support we get here, the more content we can create. So thanks for all your support. I'll see you guys next time on Kayak Bassing TV. Get out there and go fishing.